This is RadioOnFire.com. Yours truly, Don McKay, in here as always. A lot of things going on, and I have a special guest in the building, and we've been able to chop it up a little bit off camera. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Hey, everyone. Hey, everyone. This is Kirk Berry, KB Power, speaking power to the youth. I travel the country as a youth motivational speaker, and we're here tonight to talk about my first book that just came out.
Excellent. I'm glad that you could join me. We were talking. I was expecting to speak with you over the phone, but it's better in person, and you can just kind of get the energy. Can read the energy better. So I'm glad. Thank you for coming down. I guess let's start from the beginning. Like, where are you from?
From a small town right outside Philadelphia called Norristown, PA.
Okay.
Shout out.
Shout out to PA. Shout out to PA. So that is, so what's that, like 90 minutes from here?
Yep, roughly. Yep. Hour and a half, hour and 50 minutes. Hour and a half, you kind of speed.
Yeah, definitely. I was telling you, I used to do a lot of parties up that way, and I used to make that drive a lot. So did you grow up reading a lot?
I did not grow up reading a lot. No, not at all. I actually struggled with reading, writing, specifically reading comprehension. So I was always one of those students that was afraid to read or to dig deep into reading. And my mother would just straight tell you that I was lazy. That's why I didn't read.
My baby can read. He just, yeah. Okay. And so my mother's a teacher.
Okay.
And so I was telling her the other day how anytime that I get an opportunity to tell people that I had homework all year round, I do it. And so, summertime, still had to read books, had to do book reports. Sometimes, in the middle of the summer, kids come up to the house. Can you come outside? And you're like, I got to do my homework. They're like, homework, but yeah, so she was a taskmaster with reading. But so as far as what you were into when you were younger, what were you into hobby-wise?
So as a kid, obviously wrestling. I grew up on wrestling.
Okay, me too.
I love TGI Fridays, right? So I did that a lot. And then I was someone who loved to play outside. So watching TV wasn't a big thing other than like Friday nights. And so I think our generation, if you're older than 30, playing outside, having to create basketball courts, king ball, the dodgeball, just all of those things. I was really big on that. I was always real social growing up. So anything, friends, making friends, that was easy for me. And then as I got into what we say middle school, that high school, those real formative years, I did sports, football, wrestling, track. I was a thrower in the javelin. And so I did sports all year round. And so that took up most of my time throughout high school.
Yeah. So that, so I see how you got on that path. You were an athlete. And so as far as after high school, what happened after high school?
So being an athlete in high school, doing all three sports, football, wrestling, and track, it meant one thing. That one, I was always academically eligible. And so when you ask what happened after high school, that made it easier for me to get into college, being academically ineligible. And so what I found out is that kids in high school who either do sports all year round, keep their grades up. And so now when it's time to transition into school, they get accepted a little easier. And so for me, that acceptance was a full scholarship, the Division I scholarship to the University of Buffalo in upstate New York. And they paid for my whole tuition.
Okay. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So was the plan to play professional sports? NFL? Was that the plan?
No, not at all. It's pretty funny. You read in the book and you hear a little bit about my story. I had no idea that I was good enough to play college football. I also believe if you're 30 and up, and I still think today, but you did what your friends did. But if you're 30 and up, you rapped because your friends rapped, and it was a positive thing to do. Sure. You played football, wrestling. Like, I was not the kid that grew up in wrestling. I watched it, but I never did like real wrestling. And so with football, started playing in 8th grade and never stopped. And then when I was a junior in high school, somebody said that the kid that just went to Syracuse, he went because you blocked for him. I was a lineman. I did O-line and D-line. And they said, if you keep doing that your senior year, somebody will give you a scholarship. I was like, all right, that's easy. Just keep running people over, pushing them out the way, whatever it is. And so I went to school on scholarship because someone told me that, I had the potential. When I got there, I used football as a tool to pay for school. Like I knew that the NFL was not what I wanted. And my mom raised me to, if anything, let's own the team. We don't want to work for the team.
Shout out to Mom. Shout out to Mom. That's good. It's so rare that people have that type of outlook that you just said. And that's very good. So you had the plan, you knew what you wanted to do, and this was just an ends to the means and just a way to get there.
Absolutely. Always.
Injuries, did you get any bad injuries?
Yep. Oh yeah. My first year, I don't want to say everybody got injured their first year, but first year I had an abdominal strain. The coaches thought I was just trying to milk it, sit on the bench, right? Because I'm worried about my education. And they can't take your scholarship away because you're not playing. Right. So, and then my second season, I had an ankle injury, and that kept me out for a while. And then the last 3 years, I was good. I was good.
They were frustrated. They were frustrated.
Yeah. 2 years in a row at the beginning of the season. But at the same time, right, they're proud that you're a kid that's eligible, because by the time we got to the second year, we probably already lost 6, 7, 8 kids just due to academics. So, but yeah, no major injuries, just my abdominal strain, my ankle injury. And then for the last 3 years, I was good, which is good for an offensive lineman and D lineman.
Definitely. As far as was there a culture shock for you going to school there?
Nope, it was not for me. Norristown is made up of Hispanics, African-Americans, Latinos, and Caucasian kids. And so it afforded me the opportunity when I got to college. I wasn't shocked at all. But I had teammates who never played with a black person, maybe played against, but didn't play with. I had teammates who never did laundry, like their own laundry. Or if you grow up in the hood, you know what the laundromat is. Like you know how to walk down, take your clothes somewhere. Well, you get to college and it's like, I got to take my clothes where? Downstairs to the first floor and wash with everybody. For me, that wasn't the culture shock. But for some of my teammates, they were like, my mom still does my laundry. How do we do this? And so that's where the girls come into play and girls start doing athletes' laundry. Absolutely. As soon as you get there.
Yeah. I love dissecting hearing these kind of things, just the things that you don't think about, but just the natural everyday life things. Now, how did we get to the point where you were writing your first book? Yeah. How do we get to that point?
It's very interesting, and it's a testament to how good God is. And you hear a lot of people say that, but specifically for a kid who struggled reading and writing all his life, right? I'd say to any kid or any parent that has a kid out there, if your kid struggles with it, believe me, I'm a testament that they can become an author. And so, long story short, being a motivational speaker, there were two things that were happening, and I've been doing this for the last 6 years. One thing was I get pulled into a lot of conversations. Why do you motivate young people? Young people aren't motivated to do anything. A lot of times you get the question, how do you motivate the unmotivated? Because our kids aren't motivated today. And I don't believe they're not motivated. I believe that for some reason, the older generation, the adult generation, has stopped motivating young people, stopped working with them in a sense, or at least working around their nuances to get them motivated. And so I hear a cry when I hear people say young people aren't motivated, that they're really saying we're looking for an answer to motivate them. So I wrote the book, 5 Powerful Tips for Motivating Youth. A lot of people think it's a book that I want young people to read and they're magically going to be motivated. No, that's not how motivation works. It's a process, and it's a process of someone working with you. And so I wanted to be able to answer that question. Young people aren't motivated? Cool. Adults need to get back to joining forces with young people and help them get there. And then the other reason why I got to writing a book is a lot of people said, when you're done speaking, we are inspired. We hear you. Your message is great. But when you leave as a motivational speaker, that's exactly what you do. You leave. There's no lesson tomorrow or next semester. When you leave, we don't have a piece of you or how you think to take with us. So I wrote the book so people can now have a piece of how I communicate with young people and why it's so effective.
That's excellent. When you were in college, did you see the difficulty or challenges with some of your peers being motivated? Is that something that you were able to make a connection with there as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just to, especially big schools, University of Buffalo is a huge school. I had classes with 400 people in them. My economics, macroeconomics, some of my courses. And so when you talk about the connection with some of my peers, they didn't belong in those big classes. They didn't learn that way. They needed, and so nobody took the time. It's different now. It's really different when you go back to the university, the types of things that they make sure they do to make athletes more successful than what we were 10 years ago. And so I did see a disconnect between the way sometimes on the field, some coaches couldn't motivate certain kids, but then another coach could talk to that same kid and get the kid to go out there and do something that he's never done before. So I definitely seen the disconnect.
Mm-hmm. As far as the reception that you get from the book, let's talk a little bit about that. As far as from the adults, what is the reaction from the book?
A lot of adults tell me that have read it thus far. Book just came out in May, and so we sold over 500 copies thus far. Right. And they tell me it's a good book. And I think that's cute and that's kind. But if you flip through the book, it's actually a workbook. At the end of each tip is homework for the adult to do with the young person. So if I don't hear that they did the homework, I get that they like the book, and that's nice, but I'm really looking to hear that it's successful. And so a few people have done that, particularly a friend down in Florida. He works in a certain industry, food industry. And he said, listen, I know you wrote this book for young people, but I work with people younger than me, older than me. We're a team. We're in the restaurant business. And I've been using these tips on them because the tips are really communication tips. They're not like ride a bike tip. They're how to communicate with someone so you can motivate them. And so one of the tips talks about no one cares how much you know till they know how much you care. And so he's a manager where he's at. And he said, I've just been showing my people how much, or trying to show them how much I care about them before I tell them how much I know in the restaurant business industry.
Well, let me dissect that for a second. Yeah. So you're saying that people don't want to hear your knowledge until they know that you care.
Absolutely. And people,
then they'll be receptive.
Absolutely. And people have heard that before. Like, I didn't make that up.
Sure.
No one cares how much you know till they know how much you care. People say it over and over and over again, but nobody actually puts it into play. And so he said, instead of telling my team how much I know about the industry, I've just been getting to know them and what they know. And he said, so I put your book down so I could actually do this. And I felt like, as an author, this person gets that it's more than just about motivating young people. It's about motivating people. But I understand that everyone cares about our youth and are looking for solutions. So I target it towards our youth. But when you ask about how my book is being receptive, and that person right there, I knew that they got it because they didn't just read through it to tell me it was a good book. And at the end of each tip, there's 5 of them. So there's 5 different activities that get you all the way to someone being motivated. And he understood the point of tip 1, which is begin with dialogue. And that's through having a conversation, not a monologue. So if you're just telling somebody how much you know, that's a monologue. Do this when you get on the radio, and do that with your mics, and get this lighting. But if you found out how much they already were doing as a new person that got a radio station, then you go, all right, you know what? You're doing some great things. This is what you could add. And that little nuance saved you a whole bunch of time in telling them what they needed to do. But it also told them they're on the right track. And here's what they can add to when they're ready. and that's motivating.
Right, absolutely. And I guess it goes back to what you were saying as far as the homework part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was actually applying that in real world examples, and I'm sure that it's successful for him because, like you said, if the people, I mean, I guess that happens in the military. The people that feel like their superiors are really engaged with them and care about them, they would work harder for them, or team, anything like that. So I definitely can see the benefits of that. And as far as children, what kind of feedback do you get from the kids?
So I haven't had any kids read it yet. I've had some parents say after they read it, they're going to have their child read it or their teenager. But when it gets to the activity part, it's hard for them to do by themselves.
Sure. So I guess it's more so something that an adult can use to interact with the child.
With a younger person. Yeah. Absolutely. Even for you and I, we might have mentors, right? Sure. Or for a teacher that has a young kid in their class, or a professor that has a young college student, or you and I own our own companies and we got this intern that just came in who says one day he wants to be the CEO. Anybody younger than you, not just your child, these tips apply to motivating a younger person. And so the first activity is talking about how to ask open-ended questions to start the dialogue, because tip 1 is begin with dialogue. And so the activity is start that conversation. And in that, you want to find out what motivates, what is this young person, what's their goals, what's their dreams, but not just asking those types of questions, but digging deeper. And from there, after tip 1, once you've gathered all that information, now we want to create discipline around accomplishing those things. So I get tired of hearing adults tell kids that only 1% make it to the NFL or the NBA. It's a true statement, but why can't that kid be your kid if you create discipline on how to get there? If we all across the country, around the world, just finished watching the Olympics, those are parents who made their kid the 1%, as opposed to being the parent who told their kid only 1% can make it.
Right.
Those are two different messages.
Absolutely. Totally different. And I want to go back to something that you just said. So we have people, listeners and viewers, all different ages. So just can go into telling them the difference between what's an open-ended question.
Got it. So, well, there's I'll add to that. There's an open-ended question, but then there's open-ended questions the kids think are closed-ended. Right?
Okay.
So how was your day? It's supposed to be an open-ended question.
Right.
But kids just say,
good.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
So an open-ended question is something that doesn't require a yes or a no. But in order to engage with a young person so that you're having dialogue, it's more like, tell me about your day. And then they can't say good.
Right.
You can't just, do you have goals is a closed-ended question. Yes, I do. But that doesn't require me to tell you. So it has to be, tell me about your goals. Tell me about your homework. Not, did you have homework? Yes, I had homework. That's a closed-ended question. Did you do your homework? Yes, I did my homework. That's a closed-ended question. But that engaged parent says, show me your homework. And so an open-ended question is something that pulls more out of any person, not just a young person, but pulls more out of someone so that you can get a better understanding.
And like you said, it reinforces what you were saying initially about showing them that you care. Mm-hmm. So, how was your day? It was good, fine, okay, whatever. It's kind of robotic and, it's different. But tell me about your day means I want to hear about it, what happened, and then I can get into the day. And then it just creates a better energy and it makes them more receptive.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're right on it. Absolutely. And then this also, when it comes to motivating our youth or motivating anybody, you got to kind of step outside the box. You can't have conversation that everyone has. So everywhere I go, I ask people, how many times have you heard the question, tell me what you want to be when you grow up? And kids raise both hands. They raise their feet if they could. And my next question is, how many adults grab you by the hand and actually show you how to do it?
Okay.
And all their hands go down.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look at that gets a good reaction from them. And what comes next? What do you say to them after that?
And so we talk about, well, how do we get those adults who asked us that question? How do we now put them in the answer seat? And so I encourage kids, if someone asks you, one, what do you want to be when you grow up? We need to start answering it. It's not what I want to be, but it's what I'm working to become. Because if a kid says, I want to be a basketball player, right, which we hear, or a rapper or a football player, an adult says, you need to get a plan B. But if our young people start saying, I'm working to become, now means they got a plan in place. That means that they have some action that follows. It's not just a want. I want to encourage our adults to stop asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? And start asking, what are you working to become? But typically when I ask a child if grab them by the hand to show them, most of them say no, or you have a few who say, well, I have a parent that does that. And then those kids have a little bit better understanding of what it is they want to become and how to get there. The other kids don't have a clue. So what I do when I'm done speaking is I say, anybody who wants to take down my email address, I'll introduce you to a person that you said that works in the field that you said you want to do, and start bridging the gap. And I think that's something we all could do. Maybe 20 or 30 years we couldn't do it. But now if a kid says that they want to be a neurosurgeon, I'm pretty sure I can find someone in my network that knows someone if I don't, and start making sure that we connect kids and not just ask the question and go, oh, that's cute. You want to be a neurosurgeon? And pat them on the back and walk away. That does nothing for them. And why did you really ask the question? Did you want to know, or did you just do it because you think that that's motivating to get them to talk about it? So I try to connect the dots as opposed to being like the typical adult that asks and walks away, or asks and says, well, think about a backup plan, because neither one of those things are motivating. But if someone says, I'll connect you, now the kid's sitting up like, really? No one said that before. Why would you do that? And the kids that follow up with me via email, I make the connection.
You put a lot of pressure on these teachers and adults. I mean, a lot of times people say that to me, or conversations that I've had with people rather. And I think I did the latter thing that you said, kind of like, that's a good idea or whatever, and didn't take an extra step. I'm feeling bad right now. Yeah, but I mean, and I have a pretty vast network, and I could take an extra step myself too.
That's motivating, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. But it's twofold, because you feel better by doing it. How rewarding is what you do? You're motivating, speaking, and you're writing and interacting with kids and adults.
It's extremely rewarding. As I told you off the air, right? You hear people say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And so it's after 7 for me and you. Who knows what we've done all day? But I love this, and I don't feel like I'm working. And it's important. How many times do we hear the children are our future? Well, they are. So we better make a difference for them. And so now my life is committed to that.
Very good. A lot of people say, and I'm sure that you heard it, just kind of like the generation's lost, or they're too far gone. I've heard people say we got to get the next generation out. This one is done. We got to get the next one. How do you stay motivated?
The kids keep me motivated. Seeing what our kids can do. They're so talented. They're so smart. They're just looking for somebody to nurture it. I don't think today's generation is far gone. I think our great-grandparents, yours and ours, probably said that our parents were far gone, right?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So I stay motivated internally. I'm young. So if I've done this, if I've written a book, if I've done some of the other successful things I've done, what more could I do?
A lot.
And so as adults, we shouldn't stop asking ourselves those questions. And I think we need to be motivated. Our jobs, 40 hours a week, 50 or 60, that's not our full capability. Like, there's so much more that we can do. If you don't want to do it, I'm okay with it. If you want to watch mindless TV, I'm okay with it. There's nothing wrong with it. But for me, I'm motivated by just finding out what else can I conquer? What else can I achieve? How can I be a part of that top 1% in the business world?
So after you achieve one goal, you set another one, and you're steadily moving forward. Speaking of forward, I want to shift gears just for a moment. Before we do that, how can I get the book?
So the book, I always have copies with me, so anybody can stop me on the street, but they can go directly to my website, www.kirkberry.com, www.kirkberry.com, and they can order it right offline. If you're an ebook reader, you can get it straight off Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, iTunes, or Google Play. But the paperback books are sold directly off my website.
Wonderful, wonderful. And have you thought about doing an audio version?
We've talked about it, and so we still are going to consider that and what that would look, not only audio, but also in Espanol.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So,
and so shifting gears just for a moment to some politics. We have the election coming, November. I think that this has geared up to be the most important election that I can really think. I mean, aside from Barack Obama, to campaigns, but where do you sit with the political landscape and the president?
So I don't watch most of it. What I do catch is from the clips of what the media feels is important to see. So if our Republican candidate has just said something that is disrespectful, all right, I see that as a highlight that comes across my screen. I might watch it.
He does say that.
And so, or if the Democratic candidate is not living up to what she said or has reportedly done. And so, but where I stand is that this is going to deeply affect our youth, who is selected. And it's already affected our youth. Our Democratic candidate, Hillary Clinton, she's got a commercial right now that shows kids watching clips of Trump and the things that he says.
It's a very powerful commercial.
It is powerful. It doesn't have any minorities in it. Also powerful.
That is powerful.
Right. And so I think all politicians, I think a lot of people in power have hidden agendas. And it's a shame that at the highest level of office, those who need help the most, the parties play on them to get the votes. And I don't really think that's fair. And our kids are now a part of it. Before, you didn't see our kids a part of campaigns. And so now we're putting our kids, because the things that are said by Trump are hurtful, and our kids are hearing it. And so now we've made it aware that they're hearing it because we've created a commercial that shows, look at what our kids are watching. Before, you knew they were watching, but now you see this campaign. And so I bring all that up to say that the outcome, one way or the other, is going to affect our kids greatly. It's going to do something for women because we may have the first woman candidate, presidential candidate ever. And that'll be powerful for young girls, no matter what color or race. But at the same time, if Trump's in office, he doesn't have the power to do all that he says he's going to do.
No, not at all.
But if he continues to get that much TV time, some of that stuff will saturate into our kids' heads, into their minds. They may believe some of the hurtful things that he says. And so it'll be very important for the community to wrap our arms around kids during this time frame and afterwards, right? Because a lot of people fade off after all the commercials and, when a person actually wins. There'll be some residual effect from either party who wins. There always is. But as you said, more importantly, this presidential election based on the two people we have there.
Yeah, it is. And I'm already looking ahead to the 2020. I think that Trump's rise is going to set up even more wild candidates. I think the floodgates are going to open up, and you don't know what we're going to get. in the next 4 to 8 years. I definitely, and I've said it many times, I definitely hope that he is not successful in this. I think that him coming this far is a shock, and it should be a wake up call. Hillary's more qualified. She's very flawed, but she's more qualified to do the job. I just don't believe that Trump could do the job. She's a politician, so like you said, they have hidden agendas. It's a lot that comes with that, and so she's not very liked, and neither is he. These are the two most disliked. But at the same time, they say that they're two most disliked, but they're the two finalists, essentially. Which is it's just kind of weird. There's a lot going on there.
So yeah, I agree with you. She is a politician. She's more qualified. I'm not surprised that Trump is made it this far. I'm not surprised that they're the two that are the most disliked. I believe to lead the pack, you got to have the wallet.
Yeah, well,
and so
they both have.
And
that.
they both have it.
Yeah, so that's
with the you're real familiar with this. You watch movies like Cadillac Records or any movie, and people got their music played by who had the biggest wallet. I just seen it on movies. You might know better than me as a DJ, but if it's about the biggest wallet just to get to the front, now once you get there, your talent is what's supposed to sustain, and so she has more experience, and I think that's what's going to sustain. I think all the negative rhetoric and negative tones that come from Trump is going to cancel him out. It may force people who didn't normally vote to come out just to say, I don't want him to win.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone's considering that in his campaign.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're considering it, but he's such a wild card, and I'm sure he doesn't listen to the advice, and he probably would say, I got this far by not listening to people, and I'm gonna do this. But to me, it shows that he's not as smart as he thinks that he is. For him to have gotten this far on the wildness, this being such a sexist country, if he toned it down now and kind of cruise control, didn't say the wild things, I think that he could coast in. But that's not who he is.
No.
And so he's not smart enough to do that. If his goal was to win, I think he wants to win, but on his terms. And if he has to lose on his terms, I think he'd rather lose on his terms than to win being politically correct.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Which is crazy. Okay. which is crazy. But so that is that. And we have that coming up. So I don't know. It's a lot going on, and I'm definitely. I didn't think about it to this standpoint we said about the kids. Even with our commercial, I thought that was just a tool to just promote fear. But you're right, kids are paying attention, and they're definitely going to be. If you keep hearing something, if you keep hearing that you're nothing, eventually, if you keep whatever negative things that are said, if they're said over and over again, it definitely will seep in with these kids.
And it may not be all of them, but some of them. Some of them may hear that.
A portion, yeah.
And I think this campaign is going to motivate a president years to come. Someone's going to say, I've seen the foolishness, that none of it was focused on what really can make America great.
Right.
Like
that rarely gets talked about. The actual things. Like.
And so a kid's watching that, and they're like, when someone says, well, what made you want to run for president? And they're going to say, when I was a kid, I seen ads and commercials, and I seen debates, and none of these tough questions. And they'll be able to talk about the 4 years that we can't see. They'll be able to say, I grew up during those 4 years, and the times were like this. And there were still people out of jobs, and maybe their mother or father was somebody without jobs, or it might be a Hispanic or Latino president at that time, right? And they'll be able to reflect back, and they will say, this motivated me, because at the time America wasn't being the best representative as they should be across other countries.
Yeah. Definitely. Weird question. I want to ask. I usually ask people this. What was your first job?
CVS.
CVS.
CVS was my first job, and I promised my mom that I would go to college. I had to stand on my feet for 8 hours. I had to either face like the whole facing of the aisles, put stuff back that people didn't want when they got to the register, or I had to run the cashier, which was really difficult then. It's probably not anymore. But I worked 1 day a week on Sundays because I did football on Friday nights. I did wrestling on Saturdays, and I did track on the weekends on Friday or Saturdays. So it really only left me Sunday to work. And so I did that for like a year and a half.
Did you take anything with you from that first job that you apply regularly?
Yep. And I learned it before the first job, but you really seen it on the first job. Respecting all customers, respecting all people. Those that came in on Sundays came every Sunday to a store like CVS. So they remembered you, and you could see them talk to you differently as a cashier than another cashier.
Because they knew you.
Yep, they knew you in the respect level, greeting them, remembering their names. People love when you remember their names. And so still to this day, when I go on dates, girls are like, why do you read all the waitress and people's names? And I was like, because they have names. They have a name tag on. And so those levels of respect, they
so
take
you call the people by their name.
Mm-hmm,
That's
yep.
good.
Thank you, Sue, or thank you, Joe. Thanks, Bob. Everywhere, Trader Joe's, they have names. So people really, and so my customers, as they came in, I got to know their names. And it always, see you later, Miss Williams. And, see you later, Mr. Joe, right? And they just happy and they love coming to CVS.
Sure.
And respect gets you so far, gets you through so many doors. People don't realize how important it is. And so that was my first job. And when I left, I was like, man, Mom, I'm going to school. I can't do this every day.
Right. It was too much.
CVS.
Yeah.
Just standing on your feet for 8 hours, man.
Definitely. Yeah.
And somebody has to do it, and they've made more comfortable shoes. And but if you use your brain, if you work smarter, you don't have to work as hard. But somebody has to do it. So
you and your mom are tight.
We are.
Yeah.
I'm a mama's boy, but she's not a mama's boy mom. So I'll call her.
What does that mean?
I'll call her, but she won't return my call, right?
So she's not all of your business. You try.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. Not at all. At all. So
definitely, that's good. I've been accused of being a mama's boy by most of the women I've dated. I would probably say 1% has not called me a mama's boy. We were talking about the 1%. The book is called The 5 Powerful Tips for Motivating Youth. Again, how can people stay in touch with you?
So they can stay in touch with me via Twitter, Mr. KB at Mr. KB Power. On Facebook, they can go to KB Enterprise and like my page and see all the latest and greatest things. And then I should have never made my own Instagram handle. Somebody else should have made it. But it's KB _ and it's P.O.W.E.R. So it's KB _power with the dot after each letter. And just to chime in real quick, POWER is an acronym. It stands for message that's positive. It shares opportunities and promotes about taking on different opportunities. The W is for wisdom and talking to kids about how wisdom is important. The E is for encourage. And then the R is for talking about being responsible. And so when I say KB Power, power is about the message that I'm about to bring. And it's always going to be positive. Never bring negativity to kids. It's always going to share with them my opportunities, but it's going to encourage them to take on opportunities. It's going to talk to them about being wise and wisdom, and it's going to encourage them. And my messages will teach them about being responsible. So that's why KB Power is a part of, that power is a part of everything I do.
No, I think the handle's good because you remember it and just that's good. Definitely shout out to you and everything that you're doing. I had a chance to hear you speak before, and that is good stuff that you're doing. Are you going to be at the African-American Authors Expo?
Absolutely, and I'm doing a session down there, and I'm looking forward to it. That's October 15th,
right,
at Morgan State.
Absolutely. How did you before we go? How did you hear about that whole thing?
The power of networking. Someone said, "Hey, there's this great authors expo." I looked it up, and then I took care of business after that, and I talked to Miss Johnson. And now every time she invites me to an opportunity, I come down to Baltimore where we met, and I made it happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there, just more success to you. Book is available now. People can get that paperback book on your website, and I'll make sure that I put that link in the show notes. And they can also get the ebook everywhere that books are sold.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything you want to say before we go?
Nope. I just want to share one of my other goals this year. We mentioned earlier that I keep making goals for myself. We did our first KB Power Mentoring Camp 3 weeks ago. We took 10 young men between the ages of 11, 12, and 13, and we taught them life skills: how to change a car tire, how to tie a tie and dress for success, how to fish, first aid. And so before I go, I just want to say that this is really my life. And so the KB Power Mentoring Camp, I came back safe. I'm alive. The 10 kids are alive. But we look forward to doing it again next year. And I want to be able to share that with you, and we'll share it on social media.
Please do.
I share that before I go because I'd be remiss not to talk about the success that we spent 4 days, 3 overnights at a campsite with these young boys. And if we don't spend time with our youth, the reason why I bring this up, the negative vices of this world are waiting for them to get off the school bus, are waiting for them to come out of school, are waiting for them to get out of church, are waiting for them to be left home alone. If we, as positive role models in this community, it may not be 4 days, 3 overnights, it may not be through a camp, but it can be introducing them to someone who already does what they aspire to do. If we don't do things like the KB Power Mentoring Camp or spend time with our youth, the other negative vices of this world will. And then they'll go down the wrong path. So thank you for this time.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And I hear so many guys that are our ages that don't know how to do several of those things that you said, and it's I guess you just take those things for granted that, I just used to assume every guy knew how to tie a tie and every guy knew how to change a tire. And that's just not the case. But yeah, so it's wonderful things that you're doing. Please, anything that you have going on, please, share that with me so I can pass it on to other people as well.
That works perfect. Let me give you a copy of the book and sign it, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Please. I'm looking at the book and I'm like, I hope I get to keep this.
Thanks a lot.
Definitely. All right. So stay tuned. We have Cool Kids Radio coming up at 8. Definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.